Good morning and welcome to the June 24th, 2019 special meeting of the Board of Supervisors. As customary, we could rise for a moment of silence to remember those who have gone before us. Supervisor Simon, can you lead us in the pledge this morning?
Where do you begin?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, our timed items for a special meeting, 4.1, 19-631, 9 a.m. Consideration of waive a formal bidding process as it would not produce an economic benefit to the county, and B, authorize the Public Service Director to issue a purchase order to, Lede Generators for $124,813.13 for a standby emergency generator for the Lake County Courthouse, and C, approve budget transfer to Budget Unit 1781 Special Projects to Object Code 62-74 to purchase and install a 60 kilowatt generator in the amount of $200,000. Lars, good morning.
Good morning. Lars Ewing, Public Services Director. As the board is aware, the backup power for the courthouse, as was discussed within the last few weeks, is only sufficient to provide power for a few select functions within the courthouse, and that is the information technology and then emergency lighting. At last week's Board of Supervisors meeting, informed the board that there's about a 3 to 5 month lead time to purchase a backup generator, just to purchase the generator that would be sufficient for this facility. Given the potential of the PG&E power shutoffs, it came to light that this is a concern, largely due to the payroll and tax collector functions on the second floor, that we want to maintain power here. So since that time, since the meeting of last week, staff located a generator, staff through some contractors that local distributors for generators. They identified a generator that was available that is of an adequate size for this facility, had been manufactured, was on the manufacturer floor, and was available now on a first-come, first-served basis, which is why we're here now. And I appreciate very much so the board's willingness to meet. We could not, with that distributor, he could not guarantee that it would be available. In the meantime, he was able to place a hold on that generator over the weekend until we held this board meeting. So for information purposes, it is still available. It was available at the time we wrote this and is still currently available. Typical, as I said, typical lead times would be in the 3 to 5 month range, and that was validated by some quotes that we did receive since putting this agenda item together. We did receive a couple of quotes that were very dollar-wise within a few $1,000s of the quote that you have there, but the lead time was 14, 16, 18 weeks. Other contractors submitted bids for undersized generators that were a few weeks out, but they would not be of adequate size for this building. So if the board identifies that backup power for the courthouse is a priority, I'm asking that we waive the formal bidding procedure, because this is not only adequately sized and the price seems to be in the range that is industry standard, I guess I will say, but more importantly, it is available now. Now I want to say that the availability now is still, there's still a shipping time here. It's located in Mississippi, so we're talking about a few weeks to get here. And there's a few things that we need to line up. We need to line up electricians. So we're beating the drums, pounding the pavement, looking for electricians, putting out on the bid boards, plan rooms, builders exchanges, an invitation to bid on installing a generator of this size. So there is some work to be done. It's not just buy the generator, great, let's come in and plop it down out front and we're good to go. There's a good amount of work. Total cost for the whole project, we're estimating $200,000. That covers the cost of the generator plus the cost of the installation. So I'm happy to answer any questions, and I expect that there are some.
Okay. Is there any questions? Supervisor Brown?
So Lars and I spoke, one of the questions I had was about the bid. Not going to bid is, going to bug me and a lot of people, but basically you've done an informal bid process by going out to several vendors.
Yeah.
And so you've done that to satisfy, your criteria as far as trying to get the best price, and also the quickest response on that. And we're going to talk about other, as we go, we're going to do this with the Space Committee. We're going to meet about that and talk about how we move forward with any of the other generators that we'll be needing, several. But the one, just out of curiosity, is diesel generator, right?
It is, yes.
Okay, and the setup of it is going to be where?
It would be located right at the corner of the building here. The backup generator that we have for this building right now is in the what we call the Sally port, just
Yeah.
under the G8. This would be located outside on existing concrete pad. That's the current plan. I have worked with air quality to ensure that that this specific generator is allowed. There are some minor retrofit issues that we're going to have to deal with long term if we run it for more than a certain number of hours. But those are issues that can be worked. It's nothing that we need.
And the backup generator is not enough to,
The current
Yeah.
one now? No, it's 125 kilowatts, and it powers, again, the IT functions here, and then it actually provides a back feed to the old jail, so
to the
it's
DA,
not-
to the
it's not
DA's
a-
office?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so that's gonna remain in place for that purpose?
That remains in place, correct.
Okay, I should have written it down, I had another one.
And let me interject there briefly. If there's a potential that we can remove that, we absolutely will, because now that I think about it, it is, the generator that is being sized for this facility powers all the circuits that would go to.
Okay, so we can use that one somewhere else if possible.
Potentially. yes.
Okay, the other question I had, and I know this is not optimal, but, some of us live in the real world where we don't have a, government check that we could just write for whatever amount. Not that you do, but we're talking about a big amount here right now.
Absolutely.
What about a used one? That's what I would do if I were to provide this kind of thing for my property. For my,
Most of the used, and we did look into that, most of the used ones are, they don't meet the air quality standards that
okay,
are
that's,
necessary. So we
yeah,
did look,
thank you,
and
thank you,
that's-
State of California, appreciate that, yeah. That's it for now.
And you have had some entities reach out,
Oh,
willing to help too with
Yeah.
financing.
Okay.
Right.
That was the other
Yeah,
thing,
Brock.
Brock Falkenberg has 25,000 that
Yeah.
they'll put towards,
And I've talked to Brock,
Okay.
and he, absolutely, I
Yeah.
want to publicly thank the Office of
Yeah.
Education for extending that offer.
Yeah.
And that hits on maybe some of the unique reasons for why. It's not simply for the county offices, it's the services they provide.
well, they got payroll, they got,
Exactly.
yeah, no, it's over 10%, so that's actually very helpful from them, so. Yep. And thank you, Tina, that was the other thing that I was gonna mention.
Any further questions?
Is there a storage fuel tank underneath? Is that what's sitting underneath it?
it's a
What's
base
the
tank.
extra?
It's a base tank, it's an 1,800 gallon.
Is it 1,800? All right.
Well, plus we've got 5,000 gallons out there, so,
True, we could, yeah, and that 1,800 gallons would, I think the expectation was that was 5 to 7 days, and then we could, of no refueling, and that would power this facility.
well,
Okay.
no, let me ask a point here, make a point. If we don't use that, then we don't have to build a containment around it.
Right.
That will
It's-
be cheaper, and we can plumb right into the one that we have.
Correct, and
Yeah.
the generator that's proposed has the self-containment in it.
Yeah, it's right underneath it right
But-
here. I just
but
wanted to
you're
make
right,
sure.
We could backfeed to that, because that could be the secondary, we would need to refuel it
Yeah,
as quickly.
yeah, okay.
Any other questions? Supervisor Sabatier, no questions?
I do have, so first, I apologize for not being at the last meeting where this was discussed in greater detail than just looking at the generator. And if it's possible for you to bring that map up. One of my concerns is we have a lot of county offices. And when I look at this is the fire map from CPUC, and if, so we're looking at the middle right there is the courthouse, and when you zoom out, keep zooming out, then you start seeing the threat levels. And so we're in a place where there is no threat level, and that doesn't mean necessarily that I just got a response from Herman Hernandez from PG&E. That doesn't mean necessarily that we're not going to get shut off, but the likelihood is a whole lot less than a tier 2 or a tier 3. And so what other facilities do we have that are in tier 2 or tier 3 that offer a service to the community where that service might be exacerbated, the need of it might be exacerbated by having the power shutoffs, that those facilities would
Yep.
need to have the power to be able to offer those services to the community at a point in time where there is the shutoff.
And that's what we're going to be talking at the Space Committee meeting.
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
we haven't, since we haven't had the Space Committee meeting, we're not ready to come to you with that recommendation, but if we, the expectation is that if we have backup power here, we will have, consolidation would be key. We have, how many additional spaces, additional bodies can we bring into this building that would negate the need to provide backup power for additional facilities? Instead of powering, 5 other buildings, we don't power them, the workers come in here, or to other buildings that already have backup power. And this, the discussion, we haven't touched on the fact that there are numerous critical facilities that already have backup power. There, through OES, a jail, the communications facility. So it's not as though we haven't, we the county and predecessors didn't already plan for the need for backup power. I want to make sure that we emphasize that point, that we are talking facilities that maybe weren't previously identified as critical for the purposes of backup power. This is just a new game entirely that we're facing.
So I know that this is not on the agenda, but I will tie it in. Power is what we're looking to provide to the building in order to keep the building functioning with the services that we're offering to the community and doing the work that needs to be done, the background work. I know you're also working on solar panels. Will the solar panels you're looking at be able to go through a transfer switch and give us the energy we need to do what this generator does? Because I don't want to see, unless we can move the generator somewhere else in the long run, I don't want to see something stuck here where then we're also working on a program to replace that and be able to utilize that.
So to go completely off the grid, we would require the solar panels plus enough storage, battery storage. So if we have a backup generator here, we use if we were to have solar panels now, that would provide us power, though we might rely upon the generator to get that jump start during times when maybe there isn't enough solar power. But absolutely, that is being used, and yes, the transfer switch can be used regardless of what power source you're providing to the building. So it could come absolutely from the solar panels when we get those in.
Right, it's a matter of timing, which is why we're having this meeting today. Once the generator is installed, is it possible to move to a different location if we have a better understanding of how the PSPS is going to work, that yes, we're in the no threat, so we may not get shut down, because PG&E is changing and updating with every single one that they're doing. They don't really have their plan set in stone. We don't really have our plan set. And I think everybody's going to get a little bit more detailed on what their plan is as it happens and we experience it. Would it be possible to move in the future, or is it once installed?
Are you asking for the generator proposed?
Yeah.
Possibly, yes. At a high cost. I would offer that. I mean, this is a permanent generator install that we're proposing, but it can be moved here, and it certainly could be moved elsewhere. I will tell you that for county facilities, there aren't many that would require that size,
Right.
600 kilowatts, and next down. Next largest facility is probably half to a third of that, which doesn't mean that generator couldn't work for it, but putting in a big block engine in a Geo Metro, I guess is maybe what you'd be looking at there.
And my last question is, I know it was brought up and I forgot the answer when I was watching the video of the courthouse and them paying a percentage of...
The fourth floor.
Is
Yeah.
the fourth floor able to pay for a percentage of this, or does that not fit within the reading of what they will cover?
Well, I don't want to speak for what they will or won't. We are submitting a shared cost letter, which is in line with the agreement that we have, working with county council to work towards that end. But we, no different than any other project, we are absolutely submitting a request for shared costs on this.
And what percentage was that again? It was 20%?
The typical shared cost is 30%.
30%. Thank you.
Any other questions?
That was the question I was going to ask, see if that was an arrangement.
Just briefly, I know that right before Lars and I had just spoke real quick, and I mentioned how at the RCRC meeting, there was a lot of legislature that would be going through for potential funding in the future if it passes. Is there a way that, and you had mentioned some of the different Assembly bills and Senate bills, is there a way that eventually some of those, do you feel that can backfill some of this, these costs, or even potential future costs?
I want to follow on that too.
Okay, the Senate bills and Assembly bills that we discussed were solid waste related. AB 901 and 1383 were the ones that we briefly discussed.
Right.
So funding through those, I think it would be safe to say no. Others,
Like 74 and a couple
yeah,
of
the others, I think the answer is I don't know, but happy to look into it. You know, USDA has been thrown out there as potential grants. You know, I don't know. I'm not well versed enough on the other on anything out there that might be able to fund this aside from what we're already looking at.
Well, I know it's for right now, I'm not concerned about it taking precedent.
Sure.
In the future is what I'm really concerned about. And what I was planning on doing was getting support letters, you know, to the assemblyman and whoever's presenting these to the state legislature. So that way, you know, in the future, something could possibly, you know.
Supervisor Brown?
Something to consider if we can, to use this cost, if it's approved today, to go towards a matching, as our match towards a grant for any upgrades for power here on this facility, so.
Supervisor Simon?
Yeah, just appreciate the conversation, you know, and I know right now we're just talking about the PSPs, but having backup generation is so important. You know, we haven't had a big earthquake at this point. That is one other thing. So when we're talking about risk reduction and other things, being able to, you know, obviously have an operating government when someone maybe, you know, it'll take them a while to get here. You know, it's real important as you move forward with this. So thanks for bringing it. You know, I know obviously it's going to take us time. We're going to add, you know, solar power, other things as we move forward. But, you know, I know it's the power shutoffs we're talking about now, but having backup generation is very important. There's also opportunities down the road. Who knows, PG&E used to have a power shedding program that they would roll out, I know, because we participated in it. You can make some pretty good money by getting off the grid when they're overwhelmed sometimes too. So maybe they'll bring that program back. So there could be money-making opportunities in the future, you know, that most people aren't aware of, but there are opportunities out there that PG&E will say, hey, can you go off the grid right now? You know, and we'll pay you to do that. So there's opportunities down there that also could be money generating for ourselves and our facility here in the long run.
Supervisor Sabatier?
So I know this was discussed in the last meeting, and I want to bring it back up. And I know that the wording was, we were nervous about the wording of non-essential departments or non-essential positions. And it's not that you're non-essential for the actual purpose of the county. It's during a moment of non-emergency, which is really what we're looking at here. And so if we're ending up with solar panels in the long run, which will create energy for us, I'm curious as to why we're aiming to generate enough electricity for the entire courthouse when we know we're going to generate electricity for a portion of the courthouse later on. And so if we don't have a list that says essential versus non-essential, eventually we'll have more power than we know what to do with because we will have the solar panels. And so if we can have a priority list of departments that need to be active during a non-emergency, then they will be powered up. And then once we have the solar panels done, which hopefully can happen within the next couple of years, 3 years, who knows how long it might take, sooner than later, then we will be able to generate the electricity needed for the rest of the building. And then all of those people will be able to access it. That could save us a good amount of money. Unfortunately, it's not popular to say you're not essential, but at the same time, I'm not feeling that it's popular for us to spend all of the money for every cubicle, every outlet that we have here, when we know that we're going to be creating electricity in the long run. And so I think that we can help out with what's very essential and needs to be open during those times and periods, and then push and make sure that we get those solar panels done as soon as we can. so that we can go ahead and generate the rest of the electricity that we would need if we were down in a PSPS.
You know, I kind of agree with you, but I think we have to also realize that we're heading down a road of really unknown, and solar panels are great, and they produce great energy if the conditions are right and correct. If we have cloud cover, if we are covered by smoke, those solar panels aren't going to do us any good. And so I think even if we do go forth and do the solar panels, I think it's very necessary to have this backup generator to make sure that we will be up and running.
And I don't disagree with you, but at the same time, we would still have the power to generate for those areas that we've decided are priorities during moments of situations like that. I just know that we always talk about being tight on money, and I'm looking for better ways to spend our money with the anticipation of the programs that we're already working on to kind of help solve some of these problems as well. I don't know, just thought I'd put it out there.
Anything further? Well, I thank you, Lars, for realizing that this is really important and bringing this to us today. And I believe that we need to try to see what we can do to make sure that we have this building up and running if perchance PG&E decides that they're going to shut down our community, which I'm really hoping that they decide not to, and that we will be prepared anyway. But, you know, that's just hopeful thinking, I guess.
Well, I appreciate you saying that I'm pushing this, but I'll be honest, it really is those department heads and admin that, identifying where we need it. So it's we had and have our facilities that are, essential, deemed essential for backup power. This is something very unique. So it wasn't me pushing this. I appreciate that, but it's those that identified that, hey, we are going to need this, and here's why, for those reasons that may not have been apparent when we consider it from an OES emergency perspective. It creates a little bit of an emergency itself. So those that identified it, thank you. I suppose it creates some work, but it needs to be done.
I suppose.
Okay, with that, open up to public comment. Is there any public comment on this item? See no movement, I'll bring it back to the board.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to waive the formal bidding process as it would produce no economic benefit to county.
Second, I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to authorize the Public Service Director to issue a purchase order to Leap Generators for $124,813.13 for a standby emergency generator for the Lake County Courthouse.
Can I
Supervisor
ask a
Sabatier?
question before the second?
Yeah.
You can second for the question.
All right.
I
Second
second,
purchase
and
for the
then
heck of
I'll
it.
ask a question. The Space Committee will come back to the board and let us know what decisions were made prior to just moving forward.
We're going to try to meet this week.
We are going to meet this week, and what I was
And-
going to offer is if, for whatever reason, which I don't suspect will happen, but if for whatever reason this specific generator is no longer available, we would still be pounding the pavement looking for another generator. If another one comes up, I included it in the memo, but I did not put it in the actual recommendation, and whether this can be done. But can we allow for, we find another generator, not for that specific price, that specific vendor, but if the board would grant that authority up to a certain amount, going through the Space Committee first to review the proposal, again, only if this specific generator is not available. So that's something.
Okay,
that I
so
wanted to offer.
can I just
Yeah.
ask one thing? Because Bruno had a good point about, the portability of this, if necessary. So if that one isn't available, let's talk, because the up at the geysers, they have them on trailers up there that'll run an entire city up there. And they run for months at a time when they're drilling up there. So there is that availability, and it doesn't have to be parked here. It can be parked somewhere else until we need it, we bring it in. They sit on a 40-footer, and, that's just an option that's available. I'm sure they're not cheap.
No,
But-
I was looking them up. They're definitely much more than the,
Yeah, but the portability of it could be of some value too.
But that was the idea of coming through the Space Committee. If it's not this one that we're purchasing, we identify something else, have it come through the Space Committee, and that allowed, that's more than me just running hog wild, I guess, to
Yeah.
put it simplistically.
So with that question, do we need to revamp the motion?
No?
Not if you're going to approve the purchase of this generator for the price and from the vendor stated, you don't.
But if the generator is not available because we.
That
has
would
to
be
come
a
back.
separate,
Yeah, that'll come
yeah,
back.
All right.
that'll have to come, yeah.
All right, so I have a motion and a second.
And a second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. One more.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve budget transfer and budget unit 1781, special projects to object code 62-74 to purchase and install a 600 kW generator in the amount of $200,000.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And with that, meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Thanks, Lois.